Evening guys, welcome back to the What Life, and we are doing a Zwift Monthly. This is stage 4 of Get Rolling. It is a 15.5 mile route, which I think is 24k. There's virtually no climbing in it, which I made the mistake of not realizing. I thought there was actually a single climb in it. Turns out there's not. We are Cat B and we are underway with 85 riders. This is a Monday evening race, so there's always a lot of people, and as usual, in no uncertain terms, I am going to describe to you how I get dropped. But I do make it a little bit longer this evening rather than kind of falling off the start. I make it 18 minutes into what ends up being maybe a 32-minute ride to cover the distance. But big group, fast group, I really enjoyed it. I am working harder, and I'm going to talk you through a few things that I think might be able to help people who are struggling a little bit in Cat B. This race was all about the attacks. It's a slightly flatter race. So there were a few guys that were just attacking off the front, and the attacks would just, I mean, that's what took it out of me. So first and foremost, guys, positioning when it comes to trying to sit in a big bunch group. Usually when it comes to Cat B races, I haven't had the legs or the watts to sit in the middle of the group. I found myself basically just trying to ride off the back or just trying to hold on to that last wheel. The most efficient place to be in a Zwift group is actually kind of, 2-3 riders off the front in the bunch, fully like in the bunch. And I actually found myself, and I think this is something that I'm improving on. I'm getting better in terms of my performance. So I was able to kind of work my way up the group a little bit. The thing that I am absolutely bloody terrible at is using my power-ups. I didn't use a power-up in the entire race because I thought, I've got a feather, I'll save it for the climb. Lo and behold, there was no climbing in the 15 miles that we did. I'm not going to show you the whole race, guys. I'm just going to take you through the attacks that happen that kind of break the race up a little bit. But up until that point, do you know what? I feel like I am improving, and this might be kind of one of those things where it's like just a personal reflection and not necessarily the numbers, but I'm not going to show you the power curve at the end of this. We're just going to drop it out once I get dropped from the group. But I do actually nudge up kind of, I think it's like 12 to 14 minutes in terms of power curve, which is pretty good considering that I hold on to the group for just, about 19 minutes I managed to hold the group for. So positioning wise, like at the moment is pretty good, but I want to be a few more riders ahead, and then that is going to be my little sweet spot. And obviously, I can't say this every time Swifty start, everyone just rides hard off the start. That's kind of by the by now. You just got to get used to it. You've got to pedal hard off the start, and you just got to survive the first like 3-4 minutes. We'll scooch through a little bit of the race as we go, but I'm pretty happy with it, and I'm pretty happy with my progression, knowing that a few weeks ago I'd be on the back, or even like trying to hold 300 and something odd watts as an average for the first like 4 or 5 minutes. I'm not even sure if I could hold that kind of maybe a month ago, so it's pretty good. But this whole race, see those guys attacking at the moment? This is what the entire race was about. Just these little 1-2 person attacks, just bumped the speed up a little bit, and it just meant that it was like burning, I actually hate this phrase, guys, but burning a few matches for the guys at the back, which is me basically. So I was doing my best to hold the group, and I was my one thing I was working on is rather kind of sitting off the back, or sitting off like one of the guys at the back of the group. I was trying to work my way up the group to then sit in the middle, and kind of I think that definitely gives you a better draft when it comes to Zwifting. Right, here we go. Someone is attacking the group, and this is exactly what happened multiple times. The thing and the mistake that I made when it came to these attacks was trying to go too hard with them. There were quite a lot of people in this breakaway, or the front peloton, not breakaway, but there were quite a few people in this front peloton, this front group, which is big. Zwift has a certain dynamic which encourages groups to ride together. So as it strings out like it is now, it is actually trying to bring you back together and just kind of enabling you to kind of stay together. My mistake was that I was trying to ride, and I thought actually that this front group ahead of me now, I thought that was going to be a little breakaway group. But lo and behold, a few strong riders who were just sat mid-packs just start coming through, and they help bring the whole group back together. So I think with a couple of these breakaways, I was just too eager to make sure I was on the right side rather than just like not panicking. I wouldn't call it like a hard panic. I wasn't like jumping on the pedals and trying to knock out 800 watts to make sure that I was with the guys at the front. But all these little attacks are the things that just kind of broke this race up. and kind of really made it a proper struggle. So if I give you some stats for the race as a whole, bear in mind I make 18 minutes out of a 34-minute race, I think is what it was for me. So I'm just over half. I averaged 3.4 watts, which is 260 watts and 266 normalized, which is pretty good. My 20-minute was 3.6 watts, my 5 minutes was 3.9, and my 1 was 4.6 watts per kg. So they're reasonable numbers, but you also have to bear in mind that I lose the group, so I then kind of just poodle around on my own. It's a completely solo effort from that point on, which is why I'm not going to bother showing it to you. And that obviously knocks my average down, but I'm getting to the point where I'm surviving just a little bit longer, in some of these like tougher B race environments, which is super positive, and I'm taking a lot away from that. I have been doing, guys, I've been basically for the last 4 days and for the next few weeks, I've been doing the 4-week FTP builder on Zwift. So I've basically been diving into the sessions, setting it at around my FTP, which is 303, 305 watts based on a ramp test. And I'm going to do that for 3 weeks and then just basically kind of reassess and see where we are. Some of the middle parts of this race were actually all right. Like, they didn't feel like crazy, but then these guys would just attack again, and you can just see it happening again. And every time the guys ride off the front and like stretch it out, we all have to pick our watts up, and then that just kind of, well, it hurts. It's just hard work. But I definitely feel like my ability to cycle is improving, and I'm just getting fitter and a little bit stronger. I'm really trying to work on trying to keep my cadence below 100 and then kind of spinning up to 100 to just like, is it a thing like flashing out lactate? Do you do that? Is that what other people do? Anyone got any experience of that? Like, I just find like cycling really, or kind of increasing your cadence. I just find that like when I've been putting in hard work, trying to hold an 80 to a 90 RPM, once I go over 110, obviously at the same wattage, the resistance is a little bit less and it kind of feels a little bit easier, and it flushes out the lactate. I just can't keep cycling at 105 RPM for too long, because that's just, it's crazy. It's crazy legs. So positioning wise, my goal was to be sat where I am now, which is just sat in the middle of the pack. And this is great. And I feel like this is the position you want to be in. And you can kind of watch my heart rate as we speed through this just drop down as we stay in this little position. We just kind of comes down, dun, dun, dun. So like, that's the key thing. That's all I'm trying to work on, is like getting into a good position in the middle of the group where I can then use this as an opportunity to recover. Then the problem is, again, another guy dives to the front and then just picks up the pace. Everyone moves with him and it just starts breaking the group up. I'm having to cycle my ass off to try and keep up with it, and it's just hard work. I really am enjoying these Zwift races. I'm also doing the Zwift Racing League, which is on Tuesday night, but I'm also like choosing to dive in on the Zwift Monthly races on a Monday, which usually are a little bit shorter. It just happens that this is a slightly longer race. I'm actually a little bit worried about tomorrow night's Zwift race, the Racing League, Zwift Racing League, because it's a team at time trial, and you obviously have to be on form and compete and perform for your teammates, which is worrying me a little bit. That's a lot of pressure. Anyway, the attacks in this little race are just the things that keep nudging the pace up, and basically it's not something to live or die by, but kind of that if you go onto your Zwift power profile or your Zwift profile, I think it's your Zwift profile on a web page, it will give you basically your threshold number, kind of what kind of rough wattage you can like aerobically cycle at, which isn't the same as your FTP. It's slightly different, and I just found that every time the pace bumps on this, that I'd be kind of over that little threshold, and I'd be working too hard. And it honestly doesn't take too much. As soon as you nudge over what is effectively like your LT2, where you just start building too much lactate and your body can't handle it, that's kind of like a little death curve, because it's like exponential in like how much harder you find it. But up until this point, I think I was doing very well, happy with my positioning, pretty happy with my heart rate. And bear in mind, like a lot of people, kind of no one really, I guess, tapers for these races. We don't treat them like they are the be-all and end-all of riding a bike. So I imagine a lot of people are getting into this with tired legs, but it definitely plays a factor. Trying to do these little FTP workouts and then diving into this. And I'm basically, on the days that I'm not racing, I'm kind of trying to find a way to kind of fit in like some miles and an FTP workout to try and kind of see where we are in 3 weeks. I am absolutely desperate, guys, to get over 4 watts per kg on a Zwift ramp test. And I'm pretty sure that the next time I do it, which will be in like 2 or 3 weeks, I will be able to do it. But I kind of just want to stick at it and just kind of get a few more sessions, a couple more weeks of sessions, some more strength work, and obviously just some more time on the bike working on a few things. Right, this is the last attack we're going to see as someone just melts off into the distance. I just love it when it's so inspiring when someone's just like, right, I'll see you later, and just like disappears, because they're obviously just a competent, capable cyclist. And that inspires me, because I'm like, well, there's nothing stopping me and you guys from improving. You've got to keep doing it, keep turning up, kind of be sensible about it, take your rest when you need it, and then kind of put the work in when you can. Once again, we find ourselves just nudging up the power, and this is it. Kind of, you can see my wattage dives up, kind of just to try and stay with the group as we come over the cobbles. I've got a Tax Neo 2, so this is all the little kind of nuances to Zwifting. Like, I really enjoy it, but at this stage it's just kind of head down trying to hold the group. I kind of know that, like, if it kicks and it kicks hard and I find myself kind of having to put over 350 watts on a flat, and I weigh 77 kg, guys, or just under, depending on what breakfast I have. So, I'm not a big powerhouse. Like, I don't, I'm not 100 kg putting out 300 watts and kind of that's a 3 watts per kg average, right? Like, I am 77 kg. I'm not quite a climber. I'm not quite a climber. I'm not quite a sprinter. And I'm not quite just like a big, heavy powerhouse on the flats. Like, so I have to like really work on it. And what I've decided as, like, whilst we're on this point is, I'm not going to work on anything too specifically at the moment. The aim of the game is to get my FTP up, and then I'm going to start working on things like my sprint, and just kind of that kind of like, 20 second, 30 second, 40 second power. I'm going to improve as a cyclist first before I start worrying about like the nuances to these little things. Like, because I think being able to sprint and having a really good sprint is super important. I just don't think yet I need to worry about it. I'm going to just continue worrying about getting better at cycling and then take it from there. This is almost it, guys. I've made it 18 minutes. I'm pretty happy with that. Like, that's kind of the one thing I was keeping an eye on. I was like, how long am I holding this group for? You can see my heart rate is 165 and kind of nudging up. My watts are way too high for what I'm actually capable of holding, but I'm still here. But at this stage, with a little, I think an incline just kind of nudges up, and then the group just kind of starts melting away, and my legs are just like, I can't hold it. I'm at the back. I got no room to go. So that's it, guys. That's my race for this evening. Too many attacks, but we are taking the positives out of this, and we have a game plan. I will see you guys for a Zwift Racing League event tomorrow evening. Ciao.